So there's this great scene in A Beautiful Mind, and you should definitely watch the movie, but he basically connects the dots to all these things that are happening. And of course, he's portrayed as perfectly nuts for doing so. And I think a lot of us, at least from my perspective, and I see in others as well, this sense that, family and people think of you in the same way, meaning they see you connecting these dots and they think that you're nuts.
Why didn't you say something?
Alicia, John's always been a little weird.
He said he was doing code breaking. Lately, he'd become so much more agitated, and then when you called...
So, is this all he's been doing every day? Cutting up magazines?
It's this situation you may find yourself in, and I certainly do myself. And I think of it in terms of that being okay, because regardless of what perspective you've got, I think it's easier if you connect it to a larger reason in your life. And when you do that, then it becomes easier to be nuts, but still keep on going. Defunding the media is kind of an external thing, meaning you're looking at giving your power away to a media organization or organizations or big tech or whatever. And so when you think about defunding them, it's like you're giving your power away to them. And if you take the money away, you think the external thing will give you more power. That's not the case. And although that does help, I think there's a lot of internal things collectively we can do to defund the media so that the power is internal rather than external. And so that's what this video is just going and looking at some creative ways to kind of bring the power internally and rely on each other rather than relying on, if we get rid of Facebook or big tech, or we get a different platform that's going to work for us, that's going to be the answer, because that's all an external power. So I thought of this cool way of looking at it. See, it's much like if you look at an ambulance. The ambulance has a governor on it, and the governor makes it so that, and I don't know if they have them these days, but they definitely had them in the past, and I think they still do. The governor keeps it so they can't go above a certain speed. And so they do have speed governors. You can actually get one, electronic speed governors. And that's basically what these governors have done. It's kept people at a mind, body, spirit level at a certain speed. And so we're grinding towards just existing rather than being able to reach these other levels. A lot of people use this example with Roger Bannister and the 4-minute mile. It's the collective consciousness, the collective governor saying, we can't get past that 4-minute mile. And then boom, that barrier is broken. And we no longer have that collective conscious governor, so to speak. But there's been powers that be keeping us from going beyond a certain level. And so now I think we have a chance to remove that governor altogether, and that's what we're doing. We can excel at levels we've never even imagined in terms of our mind, body, and spirit. And that is pretty inspirational. But it takes all of us, I think, to break those collective governors on a real level and also just on a conscious level. And so that's what we're doing when we create content. It's not about, I'm going to spread the news of this and that. It's saying, what's the content that I could create in all that? And then collectively helping people connect the dots that you've made. And as we help each other connect those dots, it becomes a lot easier to break those governors. If you look at this, a big part of this is creating, connecting. And the more you create and connect with others, the stronger all of us are together. And one of the scary points, hear me out on this one, the Mandela effect.
The term applies to all memories that turn out to be wrong. The man from the Monopoly games, Rich Uncle Pennybags, had a monocle, right? But no, actually he didn't. Curious George was always getting into trouble, swinging around by his tail. Oh wait, he didn't have a tail. Come on, no tail? Really? There's many interesting theories, some which suggest that false memories are proof of an alternate universe.
I'm not saying the Mandela effect is true. I'm saying it's been used as a tool. Now, hear me out on this. Here's how it goes. People start to question their own memories, or they connect with memories of other people and still they get to question that. And they decide, oh, maybe I was wrong. And that's where you can erase history easily. It's a test to see how easy that is done. And then the next step is to basically erase history. And because there's no books around to go back to, let's say, theoretically, then, or people don't look at books anymore, then it's much easier to basically go and erase history, meaning to say events happened this way when they didn't. And then people question that, but because, like the Mandela effect, they go, oh, well, maybe I was wrong. And even if they connect with other people, they still agree with them. They could say, well, it's a wrong collective memory. I think the Mandela effect was put there by design. It's more like a psyop. Regardless on what you think about that or not, it's still important to connect the dots and not have the media or whoever else spin it in a certain way. And so by creating content and sharing content, there's three things that you keep alive. You keep alive those people who are currently, their podcasts taken off different platforms, their videos taken off different platforms, and by helping to collectively keep their channels alive as they move to other platforms or other situations, you help that way. And so that helps all of us, because it takes the power of those platforms away from big tech and puts it back with the people, because then we can basically say, okay, yeah, you took so-and-so off that platform, doesn't matter. We're still able to get his message, and we're still spreading his message. It eliminates the big tech power altogether. Look at Juan O Savin, or anybody you follow along this path, and you'll notice that they all have some mantras they come back to, meaning they have their shtick. They have their certain messages they repeat, they get interviewed, and they'll repeat those messages.
It's not even a political left and right. It's not a Democrat-Republican thing. The Republicans hated Trump too. They didn't want him. Look at the Bushes. No, this is something different. This is a good versus evil contest that we're in.
You can repeat those same messages, and they strengthen over time as you have more and more examples and you build that content. Let's say on your website, you have an ultimate page with that core mantra or core message. You have videos and examples and images, and those grow over time. And that's your core page, one of your core pages that you refer people to that connects to your why. And that makes it easier for people to see what you're about, able to see how, or if they want to, follow you, support you, or whatever. So that's one of the things you work on first, is your core messages, and patching that core message into your why in your life, and then having that connect to the progression and the movement and other people so that we can strengthen each other. We all have these kind of quirks and weirdness and oddness about us, and a lot of people try to hide it. But I'm convinced that instead of doing that, there are a lot of quirkiness and weirdness that you want to embrace and weave that into your voice and your uniqueness so that you can stand upon that and weave it into your content. And in that sense, people will remember you, and they'll want to follow you for that very reason, that you allow that voice to come through. One of the tricks of doing that, let's say you want to do video, is to do lives on a regular basis. Let's say Facebook lives or whatever. Do it on a regular basis, and each one do short, something simple, and you rewatch it and you see, you rewatch it, find one thing that you want to correct, and then you correct that one thing on the next go round. And you keep doing this. And it's an ongoing thing to develop your voice. But developing your voice and unique personality is something that if you do that and weave it into your content, it's much more memorable than if you try to hide it. Now, of course, content creation and all this isn't very easy. I mean, it's these twists and turns, and you get kind of like down and out, and then you keep on going. And it's recognizing those moments, and it's having action steps in place beforehand, so that when you get to that moment where you kind of lose it, or when things go south a little bit in a twist and turn that you not necessarily didn't like, it's having a plan in place, kind of like when you have a fire and you know what you're supposed to do. You have a plan for what you need to do during that fire, because during that fire you're not necessarily going to have your wits about you. Same thing when you get kind of like down and out, you won't have the same capacity you do when your spirit is up. And so having a plan in place beforehand, which everybody's different, you have your own personal plan that might work for you. An example is, getting out in the woods and going for a walk. That's just one thing you could do, but there are a lot of different things you could do. And if you decide, hey, boom, I've hit that barrier, I've hit that moment, or things have gone south enough, and you just implement that plan. You go for the walk, you talk to a friend, you do whatever you need to do, but make sure you know what that is beforehand, and you just automatically recognize when you've hit that wall, and then you just get up from your desk or get up from whatever you're doing, and you implement it without questioning, because you can talk yourself out of it. But when you do go for a walk or a run or take a sauna or whatever it might be, meditation, when you get out of that, it renews you and you're able to keep going. And creativity, I think, is a long game. Much like what we're doing now, creativity is a long game. It's one of those long games where you're going to have twists and turns, and it's not going to always be where you create something that's great and all that. It's you're going to have your low moments. And so it's playing for that long game. And that's why I think the country itself was developed by entrepreneurs, because they knew they had to play the long game. They knew they had to play the long game. They knew they had to play for longer and for things greater than they could see. They had a vision. They went for that vision, and they didn't allow all of the obstacles to move them from that. They went over, under, or through those obstacles, and they kept going. And that's what I think we need to do with content creation and with connecting with others and getting people to pivot online and make it so we can collectively remove the governors and get all of us to a whole other level as a species, a whole other level as people living on this planet collectively. Are there special tools that you use, or ideas, or resources? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. And remember, the best is yet to come. Where we go one, we go all. If this was helpful, be sure to give it a like. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.